Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I want to welcome you to the Tech Keynote, where we translate the vision that Keithy and David laid out yesterday into reality with some demos. I stood here last year and I told you that this year we're going to do it live and face to face, physically. That should tell you how bad I am in predicting the future. It's been a rough year for many of us, right? We've all been stuck in our homes trying to get our work done that way. But the vaccines are here, the pace of vaccination is picking up, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Some things are absolutely going to return to their pre pandemic state. For example, schools, colleges, and universities are in advanced stages of preparing for a complete return to in person learning. But a lot of you also tell us that some of the changes that were forced on us by the pandemic might be here to stay. For example, on a personal note, I'm hoping that I don't have to travel 300,000 miles a year just to learn more details about each of your environments and how they are evolving with time. The workplace itself is changing, right? While we do believe that some part of work from home is here to stay, it also brings along changes for office spaces, classrooms, and stores. The edge itself is changing. We used to worry about leveraging technology to help improve people's experiences in physical spaces, but that assumed they would show it there first. We have to now worry about leveraging technology to convince people to show up at physical spaces in order to experience the new things that we're going to put in front of them. As operators, you have to start thinking about how to be more efficient so that you can adapt to all of these changes very quickly. And this is where technology can help. Last year in this forum, we launched Aruba ESP, or Edge Services Platform. And from the look of it, it's been a huge success amongst many of you. And we want to go further into describing how ESP can help with address all of these changes that you're encountering. And in order to illustrate this, we thought we would frame the whole keynote into a set of 3 journeys. But from your perspective, each of your journeys is unique. They all have different starting points, different destinations, and different timelines. But what we are going to do is describe to you or help you understand how ESP can meet you where you are. So the 3 journeys that we want to go through during this keynote are the workplace journey. The workplace itself is evolving and how ESP addresses those changes. The operator journey, how to get operator efficiency going so that you can all absorb all of these changes and adapt quickly to them. And finally, the focus on IoT and location-based services in order to help address business outcomes and what are the business outcome journeys associated with them. What better way to do all of this than to travel through each of these journeys ourselves? But there is no fun in going through these journeys all by myself. So firstly, I want to invite all of you to participate virtually as we go through these things. But I also wanted to bring along a fellow traveler with me. So John Green, John's a familiar face to all of you. John, good to see you face to face.
Hey,
It's been more than a year.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm happy to be able to emerge from my house. I managed to get vaccinated, so I felt okay getting on a plane coming across the country. But it's good. It's good to be out here.
So I know many years ago you used to have a big role as part of these conferences.
15 years ago, I became the Master of Ceremonies of the Airheads Conference, and I think that's mostly because I failed to get out of the way when that was coming at me. And I thought that was the pinnacle of my career. Like, what could be better than that? And now here I am, Partha's sidekick for the Tech Keynote. So I feel like I've arrived. There's nowhere else I can go up from here. So thank you for that.
Okay, so as I talk to customers about Atmosphere, the most burning question that I encounter often is, what costumes am I going to wear? And I'm sure you've been forewarned before your participation in the keynote that it's not just me that's going to be wearing these costumes. You're going to do it too.
I've heard.
So as part of this, John and I both thought we would start off with wearing shirts that are a little legacy. You see the logos on each of our shirts. They're not the current logo, so they're a throwback to the older times in there.
Well, this is the only Aruba shirt I have. My boss has been really bad about giving me clothing, so
All right, John, are you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
Welcome to Journey Through the Edge. Let's join Partha and John as they take a journey to learn more about the Edge and Aruba ESP. As Aruba executives, they need to be at the top of their game to better help Aruba customers. But do they really know all they need to know? Let's join them and their tour guide as they journey through the Edge.
Okay, here we are. Great to see all of you have joined John and I on our tour. I sure hope this tour company gave us the best of the best guides. I want to be sure I understand how Aruba ESP is helping our customers.
Yeah, me too. It'll be great to see how Aruba ESP enables new use cases and better IT operations.
Hi! Our tour bus is already fueled up with the Aruba ESP and we are ready to start our tour operations.
Dan, is that you?
Actually, Partha, it's Dan, the man. But today you can call me the Journeyman. You know, Partha, I learned so much about Aruba from you that I am now officially the Journey to the Edge tour guide.
John, I fear this might be a little trouble. He's caused all kinds of trouble in the past.
Hey, don't worry about it, Partha. If you have a question that I can't answer, I know people who can.
Partha, isn't Dan the guy known to break things and cut cables and such?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
Alrighty now, let's start our journey. We're gonna start part one of our tour, visiting several locations that are transforming and enabling new ways of work and improving IT workflows. We're first gonna start off by taking the WAN Highway, visit the dating center, and stop by the workout place. And then we're gonna go to the FTF neighborhood, and we're going on a trip into the clouds.
The WAN Highway, a dating center, a workout place, and F to F. I see what you mean, Partha. I'm really not sure about this guy. I think he meant the data center, workplaces, the WAN, and work from home. But I guess we're going to figure it out.
Okay, looks like we made it to the WAN Highway. And if you look at your right, you'll see a grand silver peak.
You know, John, I've lived here for years and I've never seen the Van Highway. And Silver, oh, I think he means Silver Peak, like the company we acquired in September.
Yeah, I spent 18 years living here also, and I also haven't heard of that highway. It's got to be the only one without Bay Area traffic on it. You know, at least he knew that Silver Peak had something to do with WAN. I'm really excited to be able to introduce our attendees to Silver Peak for the first time at Atmosphere. You know, when you think about that acquisition, what are a few thoughts that come to mind for you?
Well, we can see how SD-WAN is a critical bridge in the edge to cloud journey. And it's going to be, Silver Peak is going to be an important part of our portfolio as we look towards the post-pandemic transformation of the workplace, right? So I am personally very excited that the Silver Peak team has joined us at Aruba. Their products and solutions totally complement what we already had, and so it kind of completes our portfolio, allows us to serve our customers even better than we're able to do.
And not that I don't trust your answers, Partha, but I wish I could hear it directly from the Silver Peak team. It's too bad they're not on the tour bus with us.
Hey, I know someone from Silver Peak that we can call.
I kind of doubt that, Dan.
No, really, Partha, I do. I actually have on this vehicle is the Aruba ESP My Way connection. Just hit the button in front of you and you'll be connected.
Hey guys, how's it going on the bus?
Oh, hello, Adam. Welcome to Aruba, and thanks for helping us out as part of this bus tour. Yesterday, it was great to see David deliver his first Atmosphere keynote. And in there, he spoke about the importance of security in an SD-WAN solution, John.
Yeah, I heard that too. And a big part of SD-WAN is obviously security. We're hearing a lot these days about edge-to-cloud security and SASE integration.
Hey, sassy. I've been known to be a bit sassy.
Dan, not sassy. We mean sassy. You can hear the difference, can't you? So back to Adam, and only Adam. Tell us what we're doing related to security on the user and the device side at the edge, taking into consideration, we need to think about WAN and cloud and where security protection takes place. It seems to me like there's a place for traditional edge security and cloud-hosted security. So how do we realize true edge-to-cloud security, and how do we help our customers adopt a SASE approach for those who are going in that direction? What can you show us?
Sure, so let me go ahead and pull up the demo and let's walk through it. So let's start off right here. This is the Orchestrator dashboard. So the dashboard essentially provides a one-stop shop to see kind of the health of your entire network. So if we look at where we do Zscaler and the other secure access service edge partners, I'm going to go up to configuration here and then go over to cloud services. And if we look at this cloud services pane, there's actually more than Zscaler here. So this is in many ways like an app store. It's a growing section of different services that we are integrating with. And when I mean integrating, I'm talking API level integration to these different services. So AWS Network Manager, we work with Checkpoint, Azure Virtual WAN, Office 365, and of course Zscaler, which I'm going to show you today. Now clicking into Zscaler, what we see here is it's for the most part unconfigured. Now all I have to do as an administrator, if I already have a Zscaler subscription and I want to add that to my SD-WAN fabric, I simply go over to subscription here. And in the interest of time, I go ahead and just add the credentials in, but I would add my Zscaler cloud domain, my username, an API key, and just a little bit of other information here. And when I hit save, what happens is the orchestrator connects to Zscaler's cloud. So for this customer, their SD-WAN network, their fabric, is now ready and connected to Zscaler's network. And so I can see we're connected and healthy here. Now to enable this, it's really, really easy. So I'm going to go over to the business intent overlays. So I'm going to go back to configuration, and I'm going to go to business intent overlays here.
Yeah, and if I can interrupt you, this business intent overlay is a phrase I've heard quite a bit on all the various Silver Peak webinars I've been on. Can you tell us what that is?
Absolutely, yeah. So the business intent overlays are virtual networks we build that carry different groups of applications, and we can do different things for those applications. We can prioritize them, we can optimize them, we can secure them differently across your WAN. So think of it as not building one giant wide area network that carries all of your apps, but building different virtual wide area networks that carry different apps and meet the needs of those different applications. Now in this network, we can say we have 4 different ones. We have real-time, critical, bulk apps, and default. And I'll just focus on 2 here so you can see the difference between them. But if we look at real-time and I click into this network, now I'm not going to go through all these different things. I have a different session that you should definitely go watch. It's a breakout, and I describe all of this in detail. But for the real-time network, we can see here the different apps that are in this network. So I can see things like a DSCP marking EF, the applications that are UCaaS like RingCentral and 8x8, BlueJeans, Zoom, things like that. And also even different real-time protocols like RTP and SIP. So different real-time apps are in this real-time network. If I go look at another network, like my critical applications network, I'll click on this again, and I can see critical apps here, and I can see this carries different applications. So things like Salesforce or SharePoint or Office 365. So different apps, these are mission critical apps that we all use to collaborate and work every day. They all live in this virtual network. Now, let's say I wanted to take all of those internet-based services and I wanted to send them to Zscaler. So, I want to actually use their filtering in the cloud. I want to do the inspection there, and I want to add it to my network really easily. So for the administrator, all they have to do is go over to this breakout traffic to internet and cloud services. So this is traffic that, I don't own these applications. I don't host them. They are a software as a service app. So they live out on the internet. And what I can do here is I can see in my preferred policy order what's going to happen with this traffic. So right now we break it out locally, and if that goes down, we can backhaul it. And if there's health problems and things like that, we can react accordingly. But if I wanted to turn on Zscaler, it's really, really easy. So I just drag Zscaler over here, and I make that the #1 in the preferred policy order. And once I hit OK here, and I hit save and apply changes, within minutes, we essentially take and plumb your entire network up to Zscaler for all of your different locations. And we're going to send all of the applications in that overlay directly to Zscaler for inspection. And I can do this for other overlays, or I can do it for just certain specific types of traffic that I want to optimize and secure.
So asking as an old school router guy, that would have been about 100 different router CLI commands that you just did. That was really, really easy.
Yeah, it's very easy. In fact, it's not just 100 different router CLI commands, it's 100 different commands at every location in your network. and then you have to manage it moving forward. So you can imagine that the automation that we've added into this it's life-changing for an administrator. What used to be a big, heavy lift is now a drag and drop and save. Now, if we look at kind of what happened on the back end to plumb this infrastructure to Zscaler. So I'm going to go over to Zscaler Internet Access. And what we're going to see here within a couple minutes is all of these different locations are going to geolocate to the closest Zscaler points of presence. They're going to build up all the tunnels. They're going to build up an HA infrastructure. And it's going to set up everything that they need to essentially communicate with and send traffic to Zscaler. And we manage and maintain that moving forward. So if IP addresses change, if they change things on their side, it all gets updated completely automatically. This is all API driven. So once the orchestrator essentially issues the instructions out to the appliances, they all then run a set of API calls up to all of the different Zscaler nodes to determine their location, and it builds from there.
It looks like your screen has changed. Does that mean everything's up?
That's right, yeah. So we can see here that all of the tunnels are deployed up to Zscaler. So it's up and running and ready to go. If somebody wanted to see traffic that is actually now going to Zscaler from that overlay, we can really easily transition over to the flows page and see that. So I'll go ahead and go to monitoring and active and recent flows. And these flow tables show you every connection that's alive in the network. So I can see every app, every person, where they're going, what they're doing, how much data they're sending, everything is available here. Now, in this case, we made that change to the critical overlay, critical apps, and I'm sending the traffic to Zscaler so I can look at the transport that we're using. So I'll look at which traffic that is. So I'll hit apply here. And now I can see, for example, Salesforce and Office 365 are going straight up to Zscaler. So I'm done. I've made that change across my global network, and I'm off and running, and I'm having Zscaler filter my traffic.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Adam, thank you for that great demo. It's really good to see how we work closely with our cloud security partners such as Zscaler to make the integration between the two solutions extremely simple for customers. And I'm sure as I talk to customers about Silver Peak and Aruba, and I'm no doubt you hear the same questions as well, there's a lot of interest on when the two portfolios are going to come together. A lot of questions about how Silver Peak fits into Aruba ESP. I know there's a lot of activity internally within the product teams on that front. Do we have anything we can share with all the people that have tuned in for the keynote today?
So if you look at my screen here, you can see I have Aruba Central up, and I can see my network in my different locations and what a Aruba administrator would typically see. Now, what I can do here is I can click down in, and I'm actually going to look into Los Angeles area here. And I can see I have two different sites. Well, if I actually click on one of these sites now, I actually can see that this is EdgeConnect. So we've actually taken the EdgeConnect API and we have hooked it into Aruba Central. And so now I can see my EdgeConnect appliances right within Central, right on the map here. And I actually can even see alarms. So there's actually an issue at this site. So looking at Los Angeles, it says EdgeConnect status, tunnel state is down. So there's a problem on the network somewhere. And I can really simply, one click, take it right over to Orchestrator, and it takes me right to the alarms page, and I can see exactly where on the network this problem exists within Los Angeles. I can see that a tunnel's down, so I have an issue probably with a provider that I need to address at this site, and I'm off and running. We've got that full one-click login as well as the alarming engine already linked up, and so there's a lot of good stuff that's coming, and we're really, really excited about this.
Wow, that's great progress there, Adam. Glad to see the teams looking opportunistically for quick integration opportunities, right? This allows us to deliver great customer value in the short term, as well as allows customers to implement a SASE architecture at their own pace. Once again, thank you for stopping by and walking us through both of these demos.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate your time.
See? I told you I knew a guy. So it's great timing too, because we're about to approach the dating center. So I got to ask you two one question. Are you single and ready to mingle?
Yeah, dating center. We're both married. My wife's not going to be happy if she watches this video and I go to a dating center.
Oh, wait, John. I think he means the data center.
Okay, while you two sit here talking your techie talk, I'm going to go on in and check things out.
Okay.
I'm okay.
That's Dan the man. He'll be okay. Although I think he's going to be a little disappointed when he goes in there and sees switches on racks. Anyway, let's talk about the data center for a bit. The data center is a key part of Aruba ESP in the unified infrastructure layer.
It is, and data centers are going through transformations too. For a while now, we've been, all on a mad rush to move everything to the cloud, right? And to shut down those on-premise machine rooms with the raised floors and the racks. But people are starting to realize that while the cloud is good for a lot of things, there are still use cases for edge-hosted data. And so maybe we call them centers of data instead of data centers. We need them because either the data volume is too great or the latency requirements are too stringent to ship it all across the internet. So we're now seeing customers who end up with multiples of these centers of data. Some of it's in their own buildings, some in colo facilities, and some's going to be in the public cloud.
Yeah, and I know that the center of gravity for data center networking management is mostly on-prem today, but we're also working on extending DCN management to the cloud as an additional option. Do you think we could use this Aruba ESP My Way button to call an expert to find out more?
We could try. It worked the first time.
Hey guys, this is Simon here. How can I help you?
Hi, Simon. Thanks for joining us and helping us out here. John and I were talking about the data center and how the data center is transforming. We were curious about automation and provisioning and doing it all from the cloud. Any ideas?
Yeah, actually, this is really great timing because I'm tasked with provisioning a bunch of data center pods right now. Each pod is 40 CX switches in the data center. So it's 32 leased switches, 8 spines. It can handle 16 racks of compute, and this is over 1,500 server ports. So it's really large. We're going to provision a leaf spine with an OSPF underlay and a BGP-based EVPN overlay on this configuration, all to allow us to do layer 2 and layer 3.
That's going to take a while.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like really time consuming. You're going to be busy for a while, looks like. Should we just call you in an hour?
Not really. Actually, Aruba's got a new software called Aruba Fabric Composer that's wizard-based that can really make this simple. The typical configuration, if you did it by hand, in this model, there's up to 25,000 CLI commands that are provisioned, depending on the number of VLANs you've got. The Fabric Composer could basically simplify this and make it really quick.
I hope your wizard is smarter than Dan.
Yeah, it's an interactive wizard. It'll come back to you if you make errors as you type in and basically lead you down the path to be able to configure what is a fairly really complicated environment. Do you want me to show you some of the stuff?
Of course.
Yeah, that'd be
Please.
great.
So I'm showing you the dashboard. I've just actually added these 40 switches to this fabric. Even this operation was really quick. Typically in data center models to configure this, you're talking days to configure it. I actually added these switches and it just took about 1.5 minutes to add the switches to the fabric. Now I've got them, let me look at one of the visualizations and then we'll talk about the guided setup to the right. So I've clicked on the network view, I'm showing my switches. Let's close this out and we'll zoom out very slightly so you can see them all. As I zoom out, you'll see my 32 leaves and the configuration and connectivity that's built between them. There's a lot of interactivity between these switches and how you can operate with them. Now to build that leaf spine, I've got a guided setup and I can walk through the steps in the guided setup to be able to do that massive configuration. The leaf spine configuration, for example, this configures IP interfaces on the switch. To do them by hand, there's a lot of error-prone time that you'll spend doing it. Fabric Composer can basically do it all for you in a much simpler model. And I've been doing all this essentially on-premise inside the data center. So I'm there in the data center configuring it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a lot of work there. I'm curious, you mentioned on-premise. What about cloud? Aruba Central is something we've been talking about quite a bit. Is Fabric Composer part of Central, or is it headed in that direction?
I think there's a lot of compatibility that we have between the products. So in this instance, this is a day zero bring up. So I'm bringing it up for the first time, I'm on premise. But later on, the customer in this case, they want to manage it remotely. So what I've actually done, these switches I'm just bringing up right now, but I can show you one of the other switches I brought up yesterday. Actually, I've just pulled it into Central. So if I go into Central here, you see this is one of my switches from yesterday. It's connected and online. During the onboarding process, what it actually did was brought in the configuration that the Fabric Composer could configure for it. So if I select this switch in the multi-edit view, it will bring up that configuration that Fabric Composer configured. So this is that configuration. Those thousands of lines of code now are brought into Central. Central now manages it. Now I can globally configure these switches. It's a really powerful model to have. A bit of central cloud management plus on-prem gives you great survivability. It's a really nice, I think a lot of what our customers want to do is essentially a hybrid model where they have a mix of cloud-based management and on-prem management.
I'm curious about the CX switches. Obviously, we just talked about data center, but CX switches are for the edge too. That's one of the things that makes us unique with one switch operating system across both of those use cases. So I understand there's been a lot of progress integrating switch management into Aruba Central. I'd like to stick with this a little longer. Can you tell us about that, Simon?
Actually, would you mind asking Dan the Man or maybe push the Aruba ESP button? I got to go now. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks, Simon.
Thank you.
Thankfully, Dan the Man is not here, so I feel more comfortable pushing the ESP My Way button.
It's
Do you think we should do it?
It's worked a few times now. Let's try.
Yeah, let's try here.
Hi, Partha and John. I hear you want to understand more about CX switching in Central and some of the new enhancements that we have.
Hey, Justin, thank you. Thanks for stopping by and helping us on this bus tour that we're on. Here we've been discussing how the workplace is evolving, right, and how ESP has a positive impact on operator efficiency to help them handle all the changes that are either happening now or expected soon in their environment. And I want to spend some time understanding how AOS CX management integrates well into ESP.
Absolutely. We have a lot of new features with AOS CX and Central. We've started on this journey. Previously, we had the Aruba NetEdit configuration management tool, which allowed us to edit multiple configurations of CX switches simultaneously. We also had some topology and validation capabilities from NetEdit. We've started to bring a lot of that functionality into Aruba Central, especially starting with 2.5.3.
Let's get to it. What can you show us?
Sure. Well, let's start out here with my devices that I have in Central. So I have my group of switches, and some of them have just been brought online, so I need to quickly configure them. So from here, I can go into the user interface from the group and say I want to configure authentication, AAA authentication, .1x and MacAuth. Some ports I see I already have it configured, so I can select other ports as well, and I can go in and edit those ports and add in the authentication configuration for them. Then I can configure my settings here from within the UI window. I can add my timers if I need to. And then once I'm finished configuring, I can click apply. And once I'm sure of the configuration that I'm going to push to the switch, I can then save it. And what that's going to do, that's going to synchronize the configuration with the switches using the API of CX. So as I just showed using the UI, we can make simple configurations, but say I wanted to configure something like user-based tunneling and I need to actually go into the CLI and configure that. Well, instead we have the multi-editor tool. And if you see, I just moved this toggle. Once I turn that on, that allows me, I can select the same switches that I just had, and then I can go in and edit the configuration of all those switches simultaneously. So what that does, that brings up the multi-editor, and from here we can edit the configurations of all the switches. And if you notice, there's some familiarity like we had with Aruba NetEdit. If I hover over some of these settings, it'll show me that I have different configurations across all the selected switches. And if I wanted to make changes, I can just right click on that and then modify those parameters with the window that pops up. If I want to add in configuration, I could copy paste it from maybe one of my golden configuration templates that I have. And that will automatically place it into the config that it needs to go to, the specific line that it needs to go to in the configuration. There's a lot of intelligence that we have built in that it can run checks with CX to know where that configuration needs to go. And once I'm finished, I can save this configuration and push it to my switches when I'm done editing here.
That's a huge amount of development since last year. That's really cool to see. You know, I like config files. Not everybody probably loves config files. Do we have anything in there to kind of make it easier for people that don't know quite what to do to start?
Absolutely. If I go back to my screen here, I can select those same switches that I want to configure. And then we have express configurations. The first express configuration that we have is an AP device profile. So device profile is a group of port settings that we can quickly apply after a device is recognized by the switch using LDP or CDP. So currently we have the Aruba AP device profile. And so what I can do is I can turn that on, and then when an Aruba AP is identified by the switch, it will assign these settings that we have configured. So if I wanted to assign VLAN 100 and give it a high PoE priority, and if I wanted to turn on jumbo frames at the port as well, we can create this device profile and save it to the configuration. And what that does, that will create a snippet of configuration and then push that to our switches simultaneously. We also have built-in NAE scripts that we've added in Central that allows us to quickly push NAE agents if we need to.
Hey, that is awesome to see, right? So I didn't realize we had the ability to push NAE scripts from Central. How does that work?
Well, Partha, there's 5 built-in NAE scripts that we can do. And rather than having to go into each and every switch, log into the web user interface of that switch, and then download the agent, or copy and paste with CLI, we have these 5 built in already into Central. And so all we need to do is select on one, give it a name, and then we can push that to the switch just by saving the configuration. That'll push it to the switch or multiple switches that we've been configuring. So it makes it really easy to deploy quickly these agents.
That's really cool. That's good to see all of this happening here. I really enjoyed the demo. Thanks for doing that. I think it helps make the point that just because you move to the cloud for network management, it doesn't mean you have to give up the tools that you're used to and all of those advanced features. And I guess the bigger point here with Central is, you know, all the infrastructure required to run the management system is deployed and maintained for you. So you just focus on managing the network rather than managing the management system. So thanks again for doing that. Partha, any thoughts?
Yeah, and you know, AOSCX is a one-stop shop, right? That spans all the way from access switches to CORAD to the data center, and it's great to see the full scope of the solution integrated well into ESP. Once again, thanks, Justin. Thanks for stopping by. Awesome.
Thanks for having me. I hope this helped. I appreciate the time.
Hey guys, I'm back.
Well, we missed you. You missed a lot of good stuff.
Ah, well, that figures. I'll tell you, that was not a dating center. That was a data center. You can imagine how awkward things got when I asked them to bring me to the meetups room, and they brought me to a big power room. Anyways, time to get going to the workout place where we can learn more about wireless technologies, multi-running, and getting into shape for whatever comes next.
What are you talking about? What is the workout place?
It's okay, John. You just need a Dan the Man decoder ring. You'll have to learn to interpret him better. I think he means the workplace and ensuring that the workplace is ready for the next round of innovation that we're going to introduce.
That makes more sense. Maybe by the end of this tour, I'll be able to understand him. What I do understand is how the workplace is evolving and requiring not only insightful and autonomous switching, but also new and better wireless connectivity.
I agree. And you know what? 2020 was one of the most consequential years for new enterprise wireless technology and spectrum, and this is across decades.
I haven't heard about this. Tell me about it.
Hey, it sounds like you're talking about 5G vision and multi-RAN enterprise.
Wow, Dan, did you read that from an index card? That is about the smartest thing you've said all day.
No, not at all, Partha. That's great to hear that you like it. I know the perfect guy for you. Go ahead and push that ESP My Way button, and that'll connect you.
I'm happy you could connect, Chuck. John and I would love to learn more about the year 2020 and the innovations that took place.
Sure. What can I help you with?
Well, first, I understand we saw 1,200 megahertz or so of new unlicensed spectrum come online, and we also saw 150 megahertz of CBRS spectrum activated in the United States. And then we also saw other countries begin to set aside private spectrum for enterprise cellular networks.
And we know that many Tier 1 mobile operators around the world are beginning large-scale rollouts of 5G on their towers. We continue to have customers turn to us to help navigate the rapids on this river of spectrum, right? So how can customers maximize the benefits of these developments?
2020 saw the resolution of several major spectrum questions that had been holding up investment and frankly creating a lot of decisional risk for IT leaders. As you mentioned, in the US and around the world, 5G spectrum has been finalized and mobile operators are rolling out their networks. And as John mentioned, the CBRS band has been opened for business in the United States, and even more interestingly, leading countries, particularly in Europe, but also in Asia Pacific, are moving to set aside spectrum for private enterprise networks. And about 50 countries have committed to opening the 6 gigahertz band for next generation Wi-Fi.
So, when CIOs are planning, do they have to pick a lane per se when it comes to strategy and planning for 5G and or Wi-Fi?
First of all, enterprises are today, but increasingly as we go into tomorrow, will become multi-RAN or multi-service. RAN is a term from the cellular industry, but we're going to use it increasingly in the enterprise space. A RAN stands for Radio Access Network, and I'll explain more about that in a second. Second, enterprises are today, but increasingly will become multi-band, meaning they're going to operate radios or RANs in multiple frequencies concurrently. And third, RANs actually increasingly are going to interoperate and cooperate with each other with the ability to combine capacity and even share authentication credentials, so you can use one RAN to authenticate another and vice versa. And so what this means is that Wi-Fi and 5G are going to work together.
Chuck, can you tell us more about multi-RAN and multi-band and how all of this is going to come together and work?
So, of course, the RAN that Aruba customers are most familiar with is Wi-Fi. But there are a number of other RANs that you may not think of it in exactly this way. But so we also have been shipping for some time short-range IoT RANs. Bluetooth and Zigbee are examples of those. There are some enterprises, some Aruba customers that use also long-range IoT networks. And then we have private cellular networks, and we have public cellular networks, which each have different applications. And just in the last year, of course, we've all heard a lot about what companies like SpaceX and Viasat have done to start deploying low Earth orbit satellite constellations. So these are all access networks. They have different characteristics and cost profiles, and like any good toolbox, these tools are used for different problems. All of these different RANs or services can be combined by IT architects to meet a particular challenge.
This is great, Chuck. So it is true that customers are already using many different RANs. Mm-hmm. But isn't it true that they use very different pieces of spectrum? Can they all be combined into a single product, for example?
Yeah, so this is another great question. I get this all the time. So some RANs are fixed to a single band. That's true, but a lot of RANs actually support multiple different bands. So, for example, Wi-Fi, as I think the audience knows, operates in 2.4, 5, and now 6 gigahertz. We also have WiGig up in the 60 gigahertz band. 5G operates in low, mid, and also high millimeter band spectrum. Aruba supports 3 different RANs on our upcoming 6E access points. It'll be the most we've ever had. So that's, of course, Wi-Fi, and it's Wi-Fi on 3 different frequency bands. So it'll be a tri-band Wi-Fi plus Zigbee plus Bluetooth. So that's 3 RANs on 5 bands.
When it comes to 5G, can you talk a little about Aruba's 5G vision and what we're doing to help customers on that?
Aruba actually introduced the 2 pillars of our 5G strategy. So a year ago, we introduced Aruba AirPass, which lets you use your existing Wi-Fi investment to address poor indoor cellular coverage. And we do that by allowing smartphone devices with SIM credentials to connect through AirPass back to cellular operators to get those devices automatically on a network for things like Wi-Fi calling and messaging. And then in November, we announced the Aruba CBRS solution powered by our partner Celona, which is going to allow you to build privately owned 4G and soon 5G native cellular networks. These two solutions together are all an enterprise needs to roll out a complete 5G solution. And best of all, some of the customers I talk to are, have existing DAS systems. And so a lot of the customers I talk to are looking for a way to drop in a 5G layer without having to basically rip open the ceilings and spend a lot of money again. So these two Aruba solutions together, Celona and AirPass, actually allow you to achieve that 5G experience and actually native 5G connectivity without having to touch the DAS.
Excellent information, Chuck. I mean, as we've all seen, everybody just needs more capacity, and Spectrum is one way of delivering that capacity. Mm-hmm. Think about all the people that are working from home in apartment complexes. We all need more channels, right? Security is important, and so is user experience and operator experience too. Chuck, again, I wanted to thank you for stopping by.
Thanks for checking in. I appreciate the chance to share this information with you.
All right, where are we going next, Dan?
Well, we're finishing our road trip before we head into the clouds, where you can see the F2F neighborhood better.
I give up. What is the F2F neighborhood, Dan?
You do this every day. It's the F2F neighborhoods where all the workers work from home and they're face to face with other workers via video calls. The F2F neighborhood.
I get it now, John. I think he really meant WFH, work from home. You were off a bit, Dan. F2F actually means face to face, not when you do it by video.
But WFH will be interesting. I mean, 2020 really changed things a lot. More people were working from home than ever before, even in companies that never had a work from home policy before.
Okay, well, I hate to interrupt you, but we're at our connection spot now. So we just crossed the AOS bridge into the operator journey area. And it's time for you to travel to, with, and in the clouds. So you can continue your conversation there.
Are you going to be flying us, Dan?
I think maybe I will do the flying today. Actually, Part 9113 of the Federal Aviation Regulations prohibits operation of an aircraft in a reckless or careless manner. And I feel like having Dan even on board the plane might violate that rule.
That's true, John. I'm always accused of having my head up in the clouds. So I'll just stay on the ground here and communicate with you from the air traffic control tower.
That sounded really good until we got to the air traffic controller part. This is really cool, John. Thanks for taking me up here. As we fly around, I can actually see many organizations out there. We just passed some residential places out there, people working from home. There's some office buildings out there. So, starting from homes, small sites, looks like some campus locations as well. We're more or less spanning the entire spectrum here, right? Some people have just a handful of APs, others have gateways, and some mix of on-site and remote workers.
Yeah, it's great up here. I love flying. We've got visibility for miles. We have, great ability to choose our path from point A to point B, whatever we want to do. We're faster than all those cars down there on fixed roads and fixed lanes and such. By the way, I'm a flight instructor, so at any point if you want to take over the flying yourself, you just let me know. But I'll tell you, if you become a student pilot, the flight suit and the goggles have to go.
Okay, then I might have to take a rain check on this time around. But I wonder, as we've talked to some of the experts so far while we were on that bus tour, if we can continue the journey on this segment, learn more about Aruba Central's ability to see all types of sites and deployments, home, campus, data center, WAN, branch, for example, I think Central is really going to streamline the IT operator experience. I wonder if there's an expert that we can call.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but why don't we call Dan up? We can link up the ESP MyWay system to our display screen here in flight. Hang on. Dan, can you hear us?
Yeah. Hey guys, read you loud and clear. What you need?
Hey, Dan, thanks for helping out. We have some questions about Central and management across an organization's entire network.
I know the perfect guy. Let me radio in Madani. Hey Madani, are you there?
Hey guys, wait, where are you?
Hey, Madani, great you can join us. So John and I are out here flying, taking our journey through the clouds. We just finished climbing and completed our migration to the cloud. Great day, great visibility. But what I really wanted your help with is to understand what Aruba is doing to help IT operators with this distributed workforce, right? Especially with lots of working from home in the past year.
Yeah, absolutely, Partha. This last year has been crazy. We've all been working from home. I desperately miss being kind of in person and being with you guys. This is some crazy social distancing. Y'all are at like some crazy altitude and here I am down on the ground. That's a little bit extreme. So, work from home has really sort of changed how our IT administrators sort of manage their networks, right? Before, they were predominantly concerned about the health of the network, in person. Now, you have users scattered throughout the globe, working from home, attached to networks that, basically the IT team do not manage, WAN circuits that they're not necessarily involved in, and so they really need to see a lot more visibility than before. So one of the things that we've been working on with Aruba Central is actually to get much better visibility around our remote users. And I want to first start with our VIA users, right? And VIA is our VPN client that Aruba's had for a number of years. And now we've enabled it within Central so you can get that visibility. And we're going to drill into that. So first let's start here. Now this is not the 50,000 foot view. This is absolutely much higher than that when you're able to see all the continents. So let's go ahead and drill in a particular area. Okay, let's click on clients and then, I'm going to pick on an interesting client, Partha. I'm going to pick on Carlos, who used to actually be my boss, one of many actually.
Hey, Carlos might be your former boss, but I am his current supervisor, so needless to say, I'm actually very curious what he's up to now.
All right, well, let's take a look. So we can see that Carlos is connected using a tunnel to one of our VPNC gateways. We can see that immediately. So, if he ever had an issue, we needed to figure out which VPNC he was attached to, this one page immediately would help see that. Now, we can also see some other information, what his WAN IP address is, what his actual local IP that he's being offered as well. And you know what? We can drill down a little further and actually see things like his throughput as well as his sessions. Now, again, this is a level of detail that really helps us understand how our users are able to access the applications that they need to be successful. We're also able to leverage other types of features like WebCC to see that basically he is accessing sites that he's allowed to.
Is this what you would refer to as a microbranch?
Actually, it's not. What a microbranch is, it's really a new term that we're using to represent the evolution of what has historically been our remote APs. Now, RAPs have been with us for many years, and it's not just about the form factor. When we think of a remote AP, oftentimes we gravitate towards the small little AP with a couple Ethernet ports on it, but RAP really represented an architecture, a very successful one. But we basically iterated past RAP and we innovated into IAP VPN as a new technology. And most recently, we've now evolved it again into what's now known as microbranch as part of our AOS 10 architecture. So here, we've drilled into another user. This happens to be Jesse. It's one of our SEs. We actually have a number of our SEs leveraging microbranch to connect back to HPE resources. So again, we can see at a 50,000 foot view, here's Jesse, his user, what SSID he's connecting to, what AP he has at home, that would be really that microbranch AP, and then what gateway he's attached to. We also get some other rich information in terms of profiling. We know his client, and again, we'll see some details in terms of throughput, and more importantly, because we're managing that AP, or IT would be able to, we can also see things like the health and the signal quality. Again, when you're deploying these APs in home networks, there's a lot of things that can kind of go wrong. So Central really helps us with that visibility.
Yeah, and I also saw that there's some references to SD branch over there, right? And so one of the biggest things that happened to Aruba last year was, we acquired Silver Peak, which has, the superior SD-WAN technology. We do internally see that both of them serve different segments of the market, correct?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, let's step back even further, right? We started this conversation about VIA, then we talked a little bit about microbranch, and then of course the SD branch connection. What links them two together today is the fact that these microbranches are actually having their tunnels formed using the orchestration engine from SD branch. And that's just really the tip of the iceberg. And then we have the thing called Edge Connect. So these four become really good tools for any customer to deploy WAN-based solutions from teleworker all the way up to campus. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the evolution of SD branch within the portfolio specifically. So here I'm going to drill into another site. This happens to be Aruba SoCal. This is one of our other sort of environments that we have some SEs attached to it. And what we're going to do is we're going to drill down on Will Smith. And no, before you ask, it's not the actor. We tried to hire him. It hasn't worked yet. This is actually an SE named Will Smith. So here's an interesting topology view again. We've got Will Smith's client attached to the HPE SSID again, connected to an AP, and then we can actually see how that traffic traverses the switch all the way to a gateway. So we have that AP to gateway mapping. We're going to drill into the AP in particular to really highlight how that convergence between SD branch and AOS 10 has kind of come along. As we look at this closer, we can actually now see how this AP is actually sending user traffic using an L2 tunnel to that gateway. And one of the cool things that's introduced as part of AOS 10 and that convergence is not only the fact that we can tunnel users from that AP, we can also operate in a situation with a single SSID where we can bridge or tunnel, something we weren't able to do previously in the earlier architectures. Now, I've already been talking a bit about kind of the AOS 10 piece as it relates to APs communicating with the gateways. Let's now look even further back in terms of the topology view from a WAN perspective. Here, I want to orient you. You see down at the bottom, we have our APs. We see that traffic running through a switch, hitting our cluster of gateways, again, a feature of AOS 10. We're using multiple uplinks, so we've got Turbo ISP and Fast ISP, and we're actually forming dynamic tunnels not only to VPNCs in our data center, but also to partners like Zscaler.
So it looks like everything's really converging into one single architecture and code base that is, with AOS 10.
Exactly. I think that's what really gets me excited, right? It's a single operating system for our wireless deployments, whether you're a micro branch with a single AP, an SD branch with multiple APs and requiring some dynamic WAN services, or a full-blown campus with thousands and thousands of APs. Now, one of the things I do want to highlight about kind of that 1,000 AP type of environment is what are some of the services that our customers have been accustomed to in our campus and how that relates to the fact that this one operating system can be used across a variety of different deployment types. The feature I'm going to pick on today is actually AirMatch. Now that is a feature that we offer in AOS 8 specifically for our campus customers, but it's not something that's been available for our AP-only deployments. And that's what I think is really exciting about this convergence of the single operating system that can be used in a variety of different deployment types. So here's kind of a snapshot of what's going on at headquarters.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned headquarters. We're actually flying over that right now, Partha. If you look off to the left side here, you'll actually see that.
So John and Partha, you may actually see some of the outdoor APs that are contributing to the data that we're looking at right here. But we see a very nice distribution of the channels, which really shows that AirMatch is doing its job. But if you look down at the channel changes, you'll notice that there's 49 channel changes in the last one day. That's really because of our environment. For those of you that have visited headquarters, you'll remember the number of APs hanging from the ceiling. It creates a very kind of chaotic RF environment that you wouldn't normally see. And so we see a lot of activity almost minute by minute. Now, remember what I said, AOS 10 is an operating system that allows us to offer one OS across a variety of deployment types. Let's take a look at what happens to AirMatch in a microbranch deployment. So here's the example of what's happening. These are the APs that our SEs are currently using, right, that are forming tunnels back to headquarters. And you can actually see how these the channels have all been kind of assigned. Now here's some interesting stuff here. We see 82 different channel changes. AirMatch is doing some of that, but we're also seeing some interesting events, right? Because these APs can't really talk to each other unless you're neighbors. You know, we actually see other things like radar, right? We have some SEs that happen to be located nearby airports. So, you know, John, you probably can understand that, where you keep your plane and such. And so we also see how AirMatch is kind of working quickly to address channel assignments whenever it detects types of things like radar.
But let me go back to some of the questions I encounter from customers that are currently on AOS 8 right now. Sure. It's been great for them. They like the stability, they like features like AirMatch that you just went through, as well as, you know, features like live upgrades, right? While these will all carry over into AOS 10, customers also want to take their time and plan their migration there, right? So what can we tell them about the flexibility that we're going to offer in helping them, you know, choose their timelines on when they want to migrate from 8 to 10?
Yeah, Partha, you know, as we talked about how AOS 10 becomes the operating system for wireless in a variety of deployment types, and CX is really the switching operating system, both for campus as well as data center, Central really becomes kind of that management platform, whether you want to be operating in the cloud or whether you want to be operating on-prem. So Central on-prem really is what helps a lot of those customers in terms of that journey, if you will. So AOS customers who've said, you know what, I'm not quite ready yet to go to AOS 10, but want to start taking advantage of the capabilities of Central, well, Central on-prem becomes that starting point of that journey, and in the future becomes a stepping stone to AOS 10, and then later they can continue to choose to stay on-prem or go to the cloud.
A lot of our customers are in that boat, either, you know, regulatory or compliance or other types of requirements. This gives them a pathway towards ESP in the way they want it, at the pace they want to consume it.
Exactly, John. That's why Central on-prem is so important for those types of customers. Now, you know, one of the things that we're also cognizant of is with an on-prem solution, we may be limited in terms of the amount of compute or storage. So we are looking at ways in which we can link that system to the cloud, where we can leverage the cloud resources for features like AI Ops.
You know, sometimes we also encounter customers that feel like, okay, in order to get the full benefit of ESP, they have to make lots and lots of changes to their environment. And what you just walked us through tells them, or makes it clear to them, that they could benefit from the full power of ESP today. So we will bring ESP to where they want it to, or, you know, how they want it to. Essentially, you know, ESP My Way is a campaign that we've launched, right? So once again, I want to thank you. This has been a great journey through the operating system on the wireless side and the management in Central. Thanks for your time, and thanks for joining and walking us through.
Sure, absolutely. Safe flying, guys.
I'm really interested in learning more about the AI features in ESP. I know that there's a lot of AI talk in the industry. Not everything that claims to be AI is AI. I mean, is it just AI, open source software that is part of my build, and does that make it really AI? In my opinion, having real AI capabilities that is credible and trustable is absolutely necessary. Something that addresses real issues rather than a few simple troubleshooting workflows being paraded as AI, right? It needs to move IT operations from being reactive to proactive. So there is at least as much focus on avoiding potential problems as there is in efficiently responding to ones that do occur. Preventing issues before they occur is where real AI makes a significant impact, right? Both for end users and IT operators.
Yeah, I get it, Partha. There's certainly a lot of AI washing out there. Having insights that can help you avoid issues in the first place or make operations better is important. You know, as a pilot, I learned to fly with very little equipment in the cockpit. A radio was pretty much all we have. And now look at all these capabilities: GPS navigation, terrain awareness, other aircraft, data-linked weather. And, you know, from a predictive standpoint, we've got lots of instrumentation here that tells us how the engine's doing and is, you know, do we think something's gonna go wrong? So it's absolutely amazing what we've got with that.
Yeah, and one of the ways we can avoid issues impacting end users is to build good resiliency across the board, right? And we've seen how real AI can help with optimizing coverage, for example, with AirMatch, right? And I know we are working on leveraging AI to also help resiliency across multiple layers in the infrastructure. For example, APs in not just how they're laid out, but also extend that to the access layer, the switching layer that powers the APs with PoE.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out more about that. I wonder, let's try the ESP My Way button and see if we can get an expert on this topic. I'll push the button and see.
Hi Partha, hi John. I understand you guys are looking to learn more about what we're doing with our AI features to help with resiliency and coverage.
Yeah, it's not just John and me, but I'm sure all the audience is as well. But do you have something interesting to show, something cool?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I get started, you're familiar with the visual RF maps, right?
Yes, I am. In fact, I've used it recently in the past year to look for coverage patterns in my home network.
That's fantastic. So you'll be excited to hear that we've now merged switch stack information into that. So you can now see what APs are connected to which switches. This is extremely useful so you can see a switch's exact physical footprint based off of the APs connected to it and their coverage. We're intended to use this data so our AI engine can take that and analyze if we have the most optimized layout.
Really, that sounds intriguing. It's interesting, but can we see that on, say, Visual RF?
Oh, absolutely. So let me take you now to my central instance. And we'll go to my site. And here we have our Visual RF floor plan. Does this look familiar?
Yes, of course. These are the APs, and then the regions, colored regions around them are the coverage areas.
Yeah, absolutely. But check this out. So what's really cool is we have this new little thing on the right-hand side where we have all of the switch stacks that are on this floor. If I open up a switch stack, I can see the members of the stack, and by clicking on next to each of them, I can see the APs connected to each switch and their respective coverage.
So it looked to me, Tiffany, like as you were clicking from one switch to the other, I'm thinking you might have some gaps in coverage if a switch in the stack gets updated.
Good eye, John, good eye. Yep, that's exactly it. If you look at this area over here, it could pose some potential issues for us in the future, thus reducing our resiliency. Luckily, our AI Insights engine has discovered some room for improvement. So if I click on this little Insights icon, I'm now presented with our AI Insights dashboard, where we have recommendations on what we can change in our topology to help better our resiliency.
Okay, cool. So the AI engine is actually giving you a recommended action to take. Let's say you follow that. Can it tell you predictively how much better your resiliency would be?
Yep. If you go ahead and take a look at this little view impact icon here, we see an exact before and after of how, if we were to implement this recommendation, how our network layout would change, as well as the exact percentage of increase of resiliency. What's also really cool is if I click on this little impact card here, I now have a table where I can see on a per stack basis what the site improvement would be if we take that recommendation.
Okay, awesome. So with this feature, now you're saying we'll be able to extend some of the benefits of, say, the live upgrade feature, right? Where we're able to upgrade code on either the Wi-Fi layer or the core RAG. Now bring that benefit down to the access switch layer in case the access layer needs to be upgraded, correct?
Yep, absolutely. So with this tool, not only do you have an exact visualization of what your switch's direct impact would be to your coverage, but you also have direct guidance on how to improve your resiliency when you're doing those upgrades to ensure that you have the best coverage. What's really cool too, as a network operator, all I have to do is just follow these recommendations and do the port swap. And if I wanted to, I could download this table and attach it to a service ticket so I know exactly what devices and what ports to mess with.
This is awesome. So
Oh, I'm sorry. One second. Hello? Oh no. Oh, okay, well good. Well, thank you so much for letting me know. Okay, all right, talk to you later. Bye. Sorry, Partha, that was TAC.
What? TAC? TAC called you now?
Yeah, we've actually automated portions of the support experience. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make IT life simpler and more informed. As an IT admin, you're struggling to try and keep on top of issues and rush to gather information. But what we've done is we've built features into Central and our AI engine that help automate IT processes.
I think I remember a little bit about this from last year, Tiffany. I think what happens if my memory doesn't fail me is when an issue happens, let's say tunnel flapping or something like that, the AI assist feature would use recipes.
What? Recipes? John, do you have food service in this plane too?
Not exactly. Pilots survive on vending machine food. No, recipes, they're troubleshooting recipes that send requests to devices, run commands, and collect information about the issue. Then support can access those logs and then see the details later on.
Yeah, that's exactly it, John. And in addition to that, now we've automated notifications to TAC.
Okay, but what kind of access do you need? Do you need to, as an IT admin, give access for TAC?
Nope, that's all automated. Let me go ahead and take a step back and explain what an IT admin sees at a high level. So just as John mentioned with the detection and troubleshooting recipes, automated notifications are sent to TAC through a tool such as Slack whenever a detection of a crash occurs.
Whoa, Tiffany. Let's not talk about crashes. I do trust John, but we are up flying in the air and this is making me a bit nervous.
Don't worry, Partha. The crashes I'm talking about could be as simple as maybe a license issue. Let's say, for example, the license manager process were to crash and then restart. As an IT admin, I would have no idea that that issue occurred until TAC notifies me and has provided me with a resolution.
Speaking of resolutions, if my boss would pay me more money, I could afford an airplane that gives me resolutions. All the airliners out there have a system on board that gives them instructions for what to do if they're about to hit another airplane, but not us.
That's exactly it. And just as TAC notifies me about the issue, all I have to do is just open up Central and check in to my notification center and see what exactly went on and the details of what happened. So let's take a look. If I go ahead and open up Central, you can see I have this nice little notification bell. And checking out my logs, it looks like there has been some activity. If I select the View All, I'm presented with our Alerts and Events page where I can see all the events that happened in my network. And yep, check that out. I did receive that the license manager process did crash, but it restarted. And if I take a look, yep, the AI Assist went ahead and gathered all the relevant information needed for that crash. So now all I need to do is get started on troubleshooting and working on that remediation. But it actually looks like TAC might have went ahead and done that for me. Looks like all I really need to do is upgrade the firmware version on this gateway. So I'm probably going to get started on doing that.
So once you see the recommendation in the notes, does TAC automatically make the change, or does the recommendation take effect automatically?
No, that's definitely up to the IT admin to choose whether or not to take action on that recommendation.
So when we find these issues, previously the customer has to call TAC, and then we go through an exchange where we gather data and figure out what the root cause is. And now you're telling me with AI Assist, we are now initiating a ticket from within the system so that it gathers the relevant data and sends it out to TAC, so that the first call that happens is from TAC, where TAC already has all of the information necessary to resolve the issue, correct?
That's exactly it, Partha. We're hoping to take a little bit of load off of the IT admins and to present them with the issues before they are even aware of it, trying to get 2 steps ahead as quickly as possible.
And I think I also see a second benefit over here, which is, sometimes as you look at these issues or the kinds of patterns of problems that are more frequently occurring in the field, then you can actually pump this data back into training the AI engine to pay more attention or to prioritize some of what we're seeing more often in the field in there. So that acts as a dual purpose effort. So I'm really excited about this AI Assist feature.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited too. Like you mentioned, with the AI Assist, if it is constantly learning, it can allow us to learn and improve our internal processes as well.
I'm very excited with this AI Assist feature because it does help us serve our customers even better than we are able to do today. Hey, Tiffany, thanks for stopping by. This was awesome. This was great. Again, we'll continue on our flight, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Partha. Thank you, John. Thanks for having me and have a safe flight.
Wow, Tiffany was great, John. I know we only showed a very small sample of all of the AI features in ESP, but I loved her energy and passion when she did those two demos.
Absolutely.
This is ground control to Partha and John.
I'm going to turn him off.
No, wait, John. I was just calling to tell you it's time to land and to begin the next journey. So the business outcomes runway is ready for landing.
He's too much, man. Partha, about that raise I was asking for, do you think you can land this plane by yourself? Just curious how much you value me.
John, are there parachutes in the back here?
All right. I'll do it this time, but I want you to keep it in mind for my next review.
All right, guys. We're now on the digital transformation train, or the transformation train. We're on a journey to see how businesses are leveraging IoT and partnerships to drive new use cases and realize business outcomes. Are you ready to roll?
As ready as ever.
I can't believe we have to wear these goofy hats. I think we should take these off.
You should take them off. There's only one train conductor around here, and that's this guy. So first stop, Zero Trust Depot. And lucky for you, Partha, we got the expert sitting right here. All right, take it away, John.
John, you, the security expert? Why don't you get me caught up with Zero Trust and what that has to do with digital transformation?
Yeah, and for our attendees at home, there was a really interesting and entertaining guy who gave a keynote on Zero Trust last year at Atmosphere. So if you want a deep dive on the topic, that content is still available for you to go and watch. To catch everyone up, Zero Trust is the idea that just mere presence on a particular network segment doesn't give you access to any services, at least not by itself. You can think of Zero Trust from an application standpoint. For example, a web application that requires authentication, authorization, and encryption. You can also think about it from a network perspective, which is really where Aruba mostly plays. Just because you can connect to a wired port or a Wi-Fi network doesn't mean that you then get unconstrained network access. And the reality is you should employ both flavors of Zero Trust. Do application-focused Zero Trust wherever you can, and use network-focused Zero Trust everywhere else.
So, the way we see it, IoT is already playing a big role and will continue to play a big role in this digital transformation, right? But there's just so many of them. How do we ensure that customers know what's on their network now?
Yeah, I feel like people have heard me talk enough now.
This is your conductor speaking. Actually, John, I was just going to say that. I think it's time to use the Aruba ESP My Way button that's right in front of Partha and find someone better looking and more interesting to listen to.
Hi, Partha. Hi, John. I'm here.
Oh, hi, Mark. Thanks for being available and stopping by to help us here. John and I were just discussing how customers get a handle on all of the IoT devices that may already be on their network.
Yes, this is where ClearPass Device Insight comes into play.
Oh, good. I know a little bit about ClearPass Device Insight and ClearPass, right? And I also understand that we introduce CPDI, ClearPass Device Insight, as a standalone app, but there's been a lot of exciting changes in the past year. Can you tell us more?
Yes, that's right, Partha. I'm happy to say that we have now fully realized our vision for ClearPass Device Insight, and we have now directly integrated ClearPass Device Insight within the Central Network Operations application. So I'd love to show you how this works. So if you look at the Aruba Central, I have the dashboard here, and I'm looking at the clients page. And what's new here is now we have added this client's profile tab. So you can see the same look and feel of ClearPass Device Insight directly within Central. You see the graphical view of the clients that are connected into your network. You see here a set of devices such as user-based devices, smartphones and laptops. as well as a variety of IoT devices like Amazon Echo, Ring devices, and these smart plugs. So let me drill into one of these to see what kind of information we can pull from a device. So I'm drilling into the Amazon Echo device. You'll start off with this summary tab, and you can see how this client connected via an AP, and it's actually connecting via the SD branch gateway up into Central. If I click on the Profile tab, you'll see deep visibility about what this device is doing. You see that we have classified this device based on a system rule, which is based on a user agent. We collected this set of static attributes such as DHCP, MAC, and user agent. What's more exciting is how we can now collect flow attributes and understand exactly what type of behavior this device is doing. So now we can figure out what applications are run on this Amazon Echo, such as these application IDs. You can see it goes to Amazon, of course, but it also goes to ABC News, Spotify, Nintendo. So this is quite a busy device. And a whole host of destination connections as well that we can pull out.
So this is a ton of information that we didn't have in Central before. Where is all this information coming from?
Yes, John. Yeah, I'd love to answer that question. So we have made great strides to leverage whatever we can pull directly from our Aruba infrastructure. And that's exactly what we've done. So we now support native telemetry directly from our instant access points and our SD branch gateways. So what does this mean for our customer? It means that they no longer have to deploy a separate collector when they already have Aruba in their network.
I remember, from ClearPass Device Insight in the past, a linkage to kind of close the loop with ClearPass Policy Manager, something to do with tags and behavioral context. So how does that still exist, and how does that work?
Yes, absolutely. We still carried that over to Central, the concept of tags. So let me go back to the client's profile view. And you can see in the top right here, we have tags. So I'll click on that. So we have both system tags and user-based tags. And I'll just focus on the tags that are created by the user. We see a variety of tags here. But in order to track behavioral context, I'd like to really home in on exactly what the device is doing and what they're connecting to. So I can track devices that are accessing Dropbox as an example. Or I can track devices that access the Wemo control platform for smart plugs. Or I can track devices that are accessing this Allegiant Engage access for smart door locks as an example. But let me show you how this works for the Wemo access. So if I click on Wemo access, you see this is based on the fact of the device that's connecting to Wemo.com. And you can see that this Belkin Wemo switch is associated with this tag. Now, the great thing is that we can close the loop with this tag because it's now completely shared with ClearPass Policy Manager, so we can apply a policy based on that tag. So let me switch over to ClearPass Policy Manager. I look at the endpoint database, and I can pull up the same Wemo smart plug. You'll see that this information came directly from Device Insight. You see the tag information gets carried over directly within Policy Manager. And all the device attributes that we get from Device Insight also gets carried over to Policy Manager. But the most important thing is really how we close the loop, how we implement our Zero Trust security framework, and we can apply the principle of least privileged access. So I can set up a policy now for IoT devices. I called it IoT Network Access Policy. And within this network access policy, the default is really to deny access to the IoT device. But if they come in with a specific profile, such as this Wemo access profile, which is associated with that Wemo access tag, we can allow that specific device to access what it needs to get to.
Perfect. This is great progress, Mark. Looks like the team has been very busy, but I want to summarize what you just walked us through in my own words, right? So one, CPDI is a lot easier to set up and consume because it's fully integrated with Central. We can now support native telemetry from Aruba network infrastructure devices like APs and branch gateways. So there is no need to set up a separate collector of any kind. But third, we can also track behavioral context of some of these devices or many of these devices by using tags. And these tags carry over to ClearPass Policy Manager so that we can actually create and apply these policies when all these devices show up on the network. Did I get that right?
Yes, that's right, Partha.
There's a lot of really rich context here in this system, and we know a lot about the devices that are out there. I'm wondering if we can make more use of that, not only at the edge network, but across the wide area network as well.
Yes, so this is the time for me to sign off, and I'd love to hand this over to Adam to answer that question.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Hi, guys. I heard you guys were looking for me. What's up?
Hey, Adam. Yeah, we were just talking with Mark and having a good conversation about ClearPass and getting identity infused into kind of what happens on the network. And I was wondering, all this device context we're getting that leads into roles, how can we leverage that in the wide area network? And Mark suggested you had some things to show us.
Yes, absolutely. So for years, our customers have been asking us about how can we add identity context and role and username information to the EdgeConnect SD-WAN system for use in reporting and policy, QoS steering, and I am happy to announce that we are finally getting there. We are now going to be incorporating in the 9.1 release of the EdgeConnect system ClearPass policy context information. So this will include a continuous stream of username and role mappings, as well as posture, MAC address, and some other information that is streamed in from ClearPass into the EdgeConnect orchestrator and stored and distributed to all of the EdgeConnect appliances. So what you see in front of you here is the Unity Orchestrator Manager display. This is what's used to manage and control all of your EdgeConnect appliances. And you see here on this screen, we've got, we can add as many ClearPass servers as necessary. And we can view and filter on the IP addresses and username information. But more importantly, once this information is in the SD-WAN orchestrator here, we can begin to use this role and identity info for to QoS and policy, steer, and do all kinds of stuff to the traffic. So let's take a look at this example. So this is a very common practice within the EdgeConnect SD-WAN solution, and that is to apply QoS to your traffic. So what we see on the screen here are some traditional QoS filtering and handling. We've got the top row here saying if our DSCP is EF, send it to real-time traffic class. If it's YouTube traffic, go to bulk apps. If it's application Salesforce, go to critical apps. These are the traditional sort of well-known ways of filtering and handling traffic in the SD-WAN solution. What we're adding and what's coming that's new to this system, if we hit add rule and we edit our criteria here, you'll see that we now have this role selection. So we click role, and you'll see that this drop down here will be automatically populated with the roles that we are receiving from ClearPass. I can then select a role. I could say, okay, well, let's pick, let's put our HR apps like that. And let's say if it's an HR app and it's SIFs, for instance, save that, and then simply modify the traffic class to specify whichever QoS handling that we choose.
Yeah, this looks familiar. I've seen this, in Aruba land going back a long time. We've done things like this for Wi-Fi of saying I want certain roles and certain types of traffic to be prioritized from a QoS perspective. So now this is extending that into the WAN as well.
Yes.
What
yes,
about
sir.
security?
Yes, absolutely. So that's the second big one that comes up quite often. So the EdgeConnect solution makes use of a firewall called the zone-based firewall. It's the end-to-end zone-based firewall. Whenever you think about controlling traffic within the EdgeConnect SD-WAN, we think in terms of this matrix that you see on the screen here. So these, down this direction, we have the from axis. So we're saying if the traffic is from guest and it's destined for let's say, the management zone. We're going to deny that. If it's from trusted to trusted, we're going to allow that. But this traditional approach here is more about assigning a zone to a physical interface on one of the EdgeConnect appliances. So what we're doing here is we're going to extend the way that you match within this matrix, extend the way that we think about configuring policies within this zone-based firewall. So if I click on one of these intersections here, let's use an example. Normally, my guest zone here is not allowed to communicate with trusted in any way. But let's say I want to make a small exception to that, and I want to permit, let's say, my contractors to talk to a specific internal server or application that is needed for whatever they're doing or whatever they're being contracted to handle for the company. I just click the intersection between the two zones, go add rule, and again, because this access list dialog is universal throughout the EdgeConnect SD-WAN solution, right here, I automatically have the role context. So I can once again select role, I could pick contractor again, and I can spice that up a little bit by saying, well, you know, let's do more options. And you'll notice, by the way, that there are a lot of match criteria. These can be mixed and matched with the role selection to create to handle a huge variety of use cases depending on what the customer's after. In this case, we're wanting to say, I want my contractors to be able to access, let's say there's a specific internal IP, 10.112/32. We just do a save on that, and then we make sure our action is set to allow. So what we've done here is we've made a small exception. We've said we're not going to open up the entire guest zone to access this particular IP address. We're wanting to be more surgical, and we're going to allow only the contractor's role to access this particular internal trusted IP address.
And now the key is you don't have to know where that contractor is going to show up in the organization. Wherever they show up, their role will be supplied into this system and they'll get the right security properties.
Yes, but there's two layers to it. They still have to show up. They have to be coming in on an interface that is guest. So there's sort of multiple layers to it. The zoning mechanism provides a coarse-grained approach to controlling who can go where. And then within that coarse-grained control, you have this finer detail of the roles and users available. So pretty cool. Again, something I think people have been asking for a very long time.
Yeah, what about from a monitoring and troubleshooting standpoint? Is this information about role and username and that sort of thing now expanded into that view?
Yes, and so for me, like an operator, a sort of a hardcore network type, this is in some ways the most interesting part, is that we now have the ability to view the role and username in the context of some of the really important screens within the SD-WAN management sphere here. So this page is called the flow table. It's got one of the busier screens in the product, but it's very important because it shows all of the current connections, all of the current flows that are transiting the SD-WAN fabric. So these are flows that are going maybe to and from the internet, what we call north-south, or they could be flows that are going east-west from site to site. What's new here again is the fact that I can look at these flows and not just see the IP addresses, I can see who's responsible for those flows. So if I have questions about activity that I see in my flow data, or I have large transfers or other suspicious activity in the flows, I can simply call the user, or I can call someone specific, as opposed to trying to hunt down, okay, who's associated with this particular IP. It's right there in the UI.
Yeah, so this is great. So I mean, now it removes one more step of troubleshooting, of having to match up that IP address back to a user. So if I can summarize what I heard here, this integration with ClearPass is brand new. It's giving that same context information that we had, starting all the way back with ClearPass Device Insight of what's out there on the network. Can we assign a role to that? That role information now extends not just to the local area network, but across to the wide area network. You can use it for QoS, you can use it for building security rules, and it flows into the operator experience of being able to do troubleshooting and monitoring of what's happening on your network.
Yes, sir, you nailed it. That is it. That's right.
All right. That's great.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, my comment as I look through this is it looks like a simple integration, but all of this contextual information flowing from ClearPass into EdgeConnect suddenly takes what was an already powerful framework up to the next level, right? Again, Adam, thanks for stopping by and walking us through this whole thing. This is great.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
The transformation train is now leaving the Zero Trust Depot. On this next part of the journey, we're going to learn about IoT operations.
What? Wait. IoT?
Yes, IoT operations. All aboard. Wait, we're already on our way.
I would think you could understand him by now, Partha. He means IoT.
Oh, IoT. I think he needs to go back to Aruba and learn more. If he can't even pronounce IoT, I bet he doesn't realize that the AP can be used as an IoT platform.
Yeah, even I understand that a little bit. You know, any of our customers who have any of the modern Aruba access points with multi-radio, they include BLE, they include Zigbee, Wi-Fi obviously, and then they've got external USB ports, so they can support a whole bunch of different types of IoT devices connected from cameras. Think about shelf labels, temperature sensors, air quality sensors. All these sorts of things are devices that can be connected through that platform, and so organizations can deploy those applications without necessarily having to string additional infrastructure around.
Yeah, and that's great, right? But you know that I also know that it actually is very simple to onboard these devices, and it would be great if we can find somebody to come and show us how.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear about the end-to-end nature of it as well.
That's true. That's important at IoT, and I wonder if we should push the button.
Yeah.
To see who will come up.
Can I do it?
Okay.
Hi Partha. Hi John. How can I help?
Hey Shoti, how are you? I know at last year's Atmosphere we showed some IoT integration, and I think it was a partner's sensor device that was using BLA within the IT operations. And I've heard you now have a Zigbee door lock integrated as well. Can you talk a little bit about that and how we'll keep customers informed about those types of IoT partner devices?
Certainly. Thank you for asking that question. We've been really hard at work since last ATM to expand the set of applications that we can offer our customers. And Zigbee is actually one of those really important capabilities that our enterprise customers look for. We've, as you know, our APs already have BLE and Zigbee capability, and we have now worked to extend the capability of the platform to support Zigbee-based applications. So on the same central dashboard where you've seen UCC and other applications, you will see that IoT operations are cloud-native microservices supported, IoT service for AOS 10 infrastructure. Right there, so this is the application running in the customer's premises. When I click on that, it brings me to the one that I really care about. And if you see the devices on it, I can show you the device view. Within that, you will see a lot of the BLE devices that we showed you last year. And let me go to the Zigbee door locks. So yes, we have been really hard at work integrating Zigbee capability that is now extended with in our dashboard. Let me also add that one of the big innovations in IoT operations is an app store where we present all the different partner devices that are integrated with our solution, and you'll find the BLE supported from last year's demo, as well as the Zigbee door lock that we've been hard at work.
Perfect, right? So if I look at the audience of Airheads, and most of them, their primary area of concern is network operations, right? So every time we add a new device or a new partner to IoT operations, would they have to go make big changes to their network or reboot their network and so on, right? So can we minimize the changes that are required on the network infrastructure?
Certainly, Partha, we absolutely comprehend that concern. Every time you add a new partner, you definitely don't want to have that impacting your WLAN infrastructure. So the way we have architected the solution of having native capability in the access points, once we have built up the support Addition of any new partner will absolutely not require the underlying infrastructure to be upgraded. We know how detrimental that is to the experience, and you will certainly not need to do that.
Great. You know, we keep hearing about some IoT solutions that require edge compute capabilities. So I'm guessing the IoT operations function will be able to support that class of solution also?
Absolutely. John, the whole edge to cloud story has IoT as one of the main driving forces. And we have the IoT connector provides you the means to do some of the edge compute as needed to get your IoT applications run successfully.
Shoti, thank you. I know it was we didn't have much time to go into detail today, but I also know that you have a detailed demo in the innovation zone, right? So I encourage everybody to join Shoti at the innovation zone to get a more detailed view into this. But thanks for stopping by today. This was great.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, Shoti mentioned partners. I think I recall a recent announcement around partnership and collaboration with Microsoft. Did you hear that?
Yeah, and we have many partners when it comes to IoT. I'm excited about this particular one, and I do recall a recent announcement we made at Microsoft Ignite, and it might be good to see if we can get somebody to talk about it.
Yeah, I think I know the perfect person to talk about that. It would be Sam George at Microsoft. Should we see if the button will work? Why don't you push it?
Okay, let me push the button.
Hello there, John. Hello, Partha.
I am very familiar with you and with your role at Microsoft, but for the benefit of our audience, can you introduce yourself and say a few words about your role at Microsoft?
Yeah, and thank you for having me. So my name is Sam George. I'm our Corporate Vice President of Azure IoT, longtime supporter and a big fan of HP Aruba.
Great. So over the past several months, your team at Microsoft and us at Aruba, we've been collaborating to work on the issue of onboarding IoT devices, right? But not just on the network, but take an end-to-end perspective. And I thought we had some interesting information to share.
Absolutely. We've been doing a lot of great work together, making it so that devices can seamlessly connect up through Aruba endpoints, but that also with our initiatives around IoT plug and play and easy-to-use solutions like Azure IoT Central, developers, IT, and OT can all work together to get massive amounts of IoT devices quickly connected to solutions securely and have a great onboarding experience.
Yeah, and as a result, I feel like we can truly say that we are looking at scaling IoT adoption to a massive scale, right? Lots of analysts say that there's going to be 50+ billion devices showing up, but until we make the process simple by removing a lot of the uncertainty in the IT-OT interface, so for either side, without compromising the objectives that each of them have, I'm hoping that this is a step in that direction.
Very much so, and in fact, the work that we're doing together helps both IT and OT partner well together. We're a huge fan of simplification of IoT. Our mission is to simplify it. But we can really only do that with strategic partners such as Aruba.
Yeah, and what I like about it, we focused on the connectivity for a long time and kind of the onboarding and that sort of thing, but we also now have access policies that get automatically set. Can you talk about any specific examples of the types of customers or the vertical segments where this is getting traction?
Yeah, we're seeing a huge proliferation of IoT in smart buildings. We're seeing it in smart energy and manufacturing, oil and gas, life sciences. I mean, anywhere where there's, these networked environments already, you're starting to see businesses connect sensors to the physical world to learn more about their business in real time. And that's where the partnership between Microsoft and Aruba is just so natural.
And is there a way, we can talk about how we are collaborating to stream all of this IoT data from the edge, all the way from the device through the Aruba infrastructure into the Azure cloud, so that we solve the problem end to end?
Yeah, one of the important things that we've done recently in partnership is to partner on the Aruba IoT connection, which enables Aruba access points and all the devices behind them to be able to be streamed into our Azure IoT Hub, our IoT services, so that they can be a seamless part of any IoT solution that a customer has. So it's a great example where customers are already now starting to benefit from that, and seeing that seamless integration between our two companies.
Sam, again, I do believe we made tremendous progress in a very short period of time, right, as part of this collaboration. And like you said, I want to reiterate that partnerships are extremely important when it comes to IoT. So I'm looking forward to making more progress. Thank you again for stopping by.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to our continued partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Speaking of onboarding IoT devices, John, remember we introduced this thing called DPP that the Wi-Fi Alliance adopted as Easy Connect. And 2 years ago, when we used to do these live on stage, we did a demo with onboarding a Zebra printer by just scanning a QR code.
I remember.
And
didn't you have a competition going with Dan on that, and Dan the Man won that competition?
Oh, come on, you had to remind me of that now. It's not my best moment. It was very embarrassing. But again, the memory that I want to hold on to is that we used to do these things live on stage, and I want to get back to that state. But I digress, right? So let's figure out, I know that our teams have been continuing to work with our partner Zebra and in moving the ball forward and enhancing, maybe even in adopting a user experience insight natively into Zebra devices, right? And I want to see if we should push this Aruba ESP My Way button to see who shows up to help us here.
I think it seems like a good idea.
All right, let me push this button here.
Hi, Partha. Hi, John.
Hey.
Hi, Fawad. Thanks for stopping by.
Hi, thanks for pushing the button.
Well, I'm glad we got an expert. Thanks for stopping by. Hey, Fawad, I know that we've been working closely with our partner Zebra, especially on the user experience insight area, where we are trying to integrate some of this sensing natively into Zebra devices. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, of course. As you know, Partha, user experience is top of mind for every customer. But for customers in the warehouse, healthcare, and retail industry who rely on Zebra devices for their most mission-critical applications, user experience is even more important. And for that, Aruba has partnered with Zebra to bring those customers an industry-first solution that allows these customers to understand and monitor the user experience on these devices in real time, detect, troubleshoot issues remotely, saving them a lot of time and money.
So it sounds good. Our Atmosphere attendees are a skeptical bunch, so what can you show us?
Of course. So I've prepared a demo for you. Let me show you. So we're looking here at the UXI dashboard that you and many customers are familiar with. And on the left-hand side, you typically see sensors, but what we're looking here at is Zebra devices. Our customer is a national retail grocery chain with thousands of Zebra devices. And what we've done is we've onboarded the devices onto the UXI dashboard. And the way we do that is that we have a UXI agent sitting on each and every one of those devices that has a tight integration with the Zebra OS via APIs, allowing us access to deep level analytics that you cannot typically get from just putting an application on a phone like an Android or an iOS phone.
So this dashboard looks very familiar, right? This is what we see when we add a lot of UXI sensors, but adding these Zebra devices to this dashboard, what additional value does it bring us?
Great question. So this gives us two new critical capabilities. And the first one is understanding mobility of those devices. So how is user experience changing as users are roaming around in the store, in the warehouse, or in the hospital? And the second is real user and real application monitoring. Being on the device actually allows us to understand real application performance, such as real voice calls as users make calls. So let me show you. I think the best way is to show you how it works. So this is a Zebra scanner. This customer is using it for online grocery picking. During the pandemic, their they doubled their online grocery orders, and their employees use these devices to check out items from the shelves, put them in an area where they get shipped to customers. So the customer is able to go into each and every one of those thousands of devices, get to this screen where they can see the health of the device over the last 30 days, and get statistics around the Wi-Fi, network, internal, external applications that the device is running. Now, I want to focus here on mobility. You can see the device transitioning here on the right between BSSIDs because the user is moving around. But below that, there are 3 charts. And you'll see that although it's transitioning successfully, the success rate is not so high. And if you look below that, you can see that it actually failed 5 times before succeeding twice. And this is a typical issue where causes user degradation because the device doesn't roam quickly, and it's very difficult to troubleshoot. We've captured it, and not only that, we're able to deep dive into the reason. So I'm going to show you our triage section. This is the transaction that is happening between the device and the access point. And you can see that the device was seeing high interference, which caused the authentication transaction to fail. The ePOL failed. It retried several times to finally getting disconnected from the AP. And the way we get this is by analyzing the packets. So we can actually drill down and see the transaction and see the W-line codes that are being exchanged between the AP and the handset. So you can see ePOL error and high interference. To do this part of today, you would need to go to the site with a laptop, with sniffers, and try to capture this as it happens. It's a very difficult troubleshooting scenario. And what we're doing is we're doing it dynamically and providing it for the customers without them having to leave their seats, really.
Yeah, so there's a lot here. I mean, by integrating this into the Zebra operating system, you're really getting the client-side view of this. And of course, we have other tools that give the network-side view of that. But that's a huge chunk of the troubleshooting that you've done without leaving your seat, and you've saved the customer a site visit. Are you able to tell exactly where that roaming failure happened?
Yes, that's what we're working for. So if you're a customer and you have Aruba APs that are 802.11mc capable, we'll be able to tag every one of those failures, like the roaming failure that I showed you or the interference issue that you've seen, to a specific location with 1 to 3 meter accuracy. And in essence, we'll be able to tell the customer you have an issue in this store, in this particular aisle, to that level of detail. And this is powerful for customers because they can really focus on what they need to improve in their stores and impact their operations.
Yeah, so they know which areas of the store require attention, and you know, without having to wander around the store with a laptop trying to replicate the problem. You also mentioned you can monitor real voice calls. How does that work?
Yes, the beauty of being on the device and tightly coupled to the operating system is that you're able to understand the performance of real applications as they're getting used by the users. One of the most important applications in these industries, the warehousing, the retail, and the healthcare, is voice communications, paging. So whenever a customer initiates a call using a SIP client, we're able to intercept that call and understand its quality. So I'm going to show you here a type of client called Workforce Connect. This is a SIP client that is used by many customers, but it could be any other SIP client. And I'm going to zoom into this section, and you see now that we're counting every call that is initiated by the device. So you know how many calls, when they happened, and when they happen, you can look at the network quality at that time, and the Wi-Fi link quality, and finally the end-to-end voice over IP MOS score. This is very powerful for customers to understand the impact of the network on their voice communications, and makes it easy to correlate that and troubleshoot issues remotely without having to actually go to the site.
Well, Fawad, this is great, right? But you have to anticipate my next question, and hopefully you have a good answer. When is all of this available?
Yes, we're targeting to have this available by the end of the year. However, we're already testing this with customers. So if you're a customer and you have Zebra handsets and you're interested in trying this as part of an early access, please reach out to your account team, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you and talk about an early access trial.
Excellent work, Fawad. When it comes to working with these headless IoT devices, partnerships are extremely important. And we just showed you one example of what such a partnership can deliver for our customers. And I know we have many more that are currently active. But thanks for stopping by. We just showed you a brief glimpse of what is possible. But thanks, Fawad. All the best.
Thanks, Partha. Thanks, John.
Attention, attention. We are coming to the end of our journey, and our last stop will be the Aruba headquarters. Please remain seated till the ride comes to a complete stop. Permanezcan sentados, por favor. Please get your washables on so that you can enter the building.
Washables?
Yes, washables. The devices that you wear that might interact and provide or receive context or data to and from the network. They get dirty and you need to wash them. Washables.
He means wearables. John, there's been a few interesting things that we're doing to help our customers with the return to campus.
Yeah, and I've heard some of that. Customers have asked, because we have indoor location tracking and all of that context that goes along with that, how can we leverage that data to assist with what we're calling workplace repopulation? So we've had a team looking at that, at the ESP edge context, and figuring out how to visualize that data, federate it, share it with other applications, and share it with different lines of business than are used to consuming that in the past. So that has led to the creation of the Aruba Workplace Insights application.
Yeah, and I know that Workplace Insights actually leverages location context around both Wi-Fi and BLE technology. I mean, that's where the wearables come. Now I'm getting confused between wearables and washables. But we're using both of those to create a new set of capabilities, right? Including contact tracing and space utilization.
Yeah, so an employee wearing a BLE tag on their badge, like one of these, oh, you got one too, is trilaterated, that's a real word, by access points, and the location context then is securely forwarded to our Workplace Insights application.
And I can see that this type of context is really useful in many use cases, right? But is really amplified if we combine it with partner integrations.
Yeah, so take Envoy as an example. Think about a visitor check-in experience at headquarters being extended not just to visitors but also to employees. So that application can then pull those network insights into the Envoy solution to automate awareness of really who's in the building with real-time insights. You could even display that on a heat map, for example. So once an employee is registered with Envoy, the system can then automatically recognize who's in the building based on these BLE tags showing up in the building for real-time reporting.
Yeah, that's great, John. I can see how we are helping customers with a return to campus now.
Speaking of return to campus, we are now arriving. We hope you've enjoyed your 3 journeys through the edge.
Believe it or not, I actually might have learned something from Dan on this journey. I'm kind of excited to see what comes next. And it's interesting, my first time back at Aruba HQ in a while, there's a train station here now.
That's true, and I'm happy you had a good time, John. And when we first started these 3 journeys, and I looked at who our tour guide was, I wasn't sure we'll come back here safely, but here we are. I had a great time going through each of these journeys with you as we walked through the vast Aruba portfolio and demonstrated how we are adding and delivering value to our customers. I'm also happy that we successfully navigated all the hurdles that Dan the Man threw our way. Once again, John, thank you for being my companion, and I hope I can get to see you again, your participation at the next Tech Keynote.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Like I said in the beginning, that it can't get any better than this, right?
I agree, and I was going to actually end by saying that we'll do this live face-to-face on stage, but that's what I said last year, and I don't want to jinx it for everybody here, right? And for all of you, thanks for the being with us on this journey so far, but I do have a couple of things that I want to take care of. before we wrap it up, but I do need a costume change before we get to it. So stay tuned. All right. Thanks for giving me the time to get this costume change done. So, I know 2020 was a difficult year for all of us, right? But with the vaccines on our horizon, I do see the light at the end of the tunnel. 2021, I'm absolutely sure is going to be exciting, right? At least the second half of it. And even as we emerge from this dark tunnel that we've been through, we know that some of these changes that we've had in the past year are going to stay. And so we all have to adapt to new ways of working, right? And, some amount of work from home is going to be here, but even the workplace is going to evolve. And IT is going to have to step up and stay agile. And I feel like we say this every year, but this year it's even more important. And we've done everything we can with respect to ESP. We launched ESP last year. It looked like it was good timing. And all the components of ESP are here for you to help you stay agile, right? As businesses adopt new technologies and new ways of working, we are here to make sure that you are successful and that Aruba ESP can deliver on the promises that we made. But more importantly, we are here to assure you that in order to get the full benefits of ESP, you don't have to go anywhere, right? And whatever unique journey that you are in, and whichever part of that journey you are in, we will bring ESP to you. And hopefully, that was the message we wanted to deliver as part of this keynote, that ESP will meet you where you are and not the other way around. And we only had a few minutes to go through each of these sections in the keynote, so I encourage all of you to tune into the breakout sessions where many of the presenters have a chance to dive deeper and provide you with all of the details that are necessary than what we were able to cover as part of the keynote. And I do want to thank the keynote team, right? There was a lot of effort that has gone into it. Usually we prep to deliver this keynote live on stage. This is the second year in a row where we're doing it in this medium. That takes, we've realized that takes at least as much effort as the live on stage performance. Especially I want to thank Jerry for pulling this all together once again. And none of this will ever happen without her leadership, her coordination, everything behind the scenes. And I do want to do one last thing before I close, which is during many of these, what looked like nonstop Zoom calls over the past year. In one of the calls, I had one of our colleagues use a virtual background, Chris Lembo. Thank you for that idea. So he had this virtual background which had all of the various logos that Aruba's had from the past to the present. And I was going to tell him he actually missed one because there was one other that wasn't on that virtual background. But before I get to tell you what it is, there's a little bit of a story, right? I want to take you all the way back to 2002. I think it was either end of May or beginning of June. We had just moved into our building in South San Jose, far away from all this Bay Area traffic. We had leased, I think, one half of one floor in a two-story building, but we had no signs that said which was Aruba, where Aruba was. So the office manager at that time, Sherry, she took a piece of paper, drew out something that said Aruba Networks, and put it on the inside of the doorway so that because we had a lot of people coming in, right? Candidates coming in to interview, we were building the team up. And so they all need to know where Aruba is situated. So while what you see over here is the first professionally designed Aruba logo, and over the course of this keynote, John and I have worn many other T-shirts that have had somewhat of a throwback feel. The first real Aruba logo was something that I'm going to turn around, and the interesting thing is always at the back of my T-shirt. So I'm going to turn around one more time, and you'll get to see the first real Aruba logo. Okay, so that's the logo that Chris Lembo was missing in his virtual background. Chris, I expect you to add it anytime soon. And finally, I want to actually, this has been a great journey, right? We started in 2002. At that time, we had no idea where we were going to be, if you said in 2021. But it's been a great journey. I want to thank all of the Airheads for making this fun so far, and let's keep it going. All of the Airheads, right? Whether you are a customer, whether you are a partner, whether you're a colleague, current or former, or you just are somebody that wants to be an Airhead because it is cool. Because you know what? It is actually cool to be an Airhead. So thank you, Airheads. Look forward to meeting all of you in person next year. Thank you.